That is the question that we're going to be asking ourselves today. And that's a question that we're going to be looking at, right? There's three key issues that I want to talk to you about. And I'm sure you're going to be very interested. Yeah. So welcome everybody. My name is Tony Teo. I'm the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa. We are your global clean energy champion. What we do is to demystify the renewable energy sector for you. We make sure that you are able to connect and resonate with the sector. That is what we do. And as I say, there's a lot of information I'd like to share with you today, and I'm hoping that you find it very interesting. But first of all, let me just say that if that's the first time you're joining us, so definitely I want you to subscribe to our channel. There's 5 platforms we're broadcasting from. So we have YouTube, we have LinkedIn, Facebook, we have X now, not Twitter anymore, and we have Telegram. Choose and pick whichever platform you find interesting. And please do connect with that, right? And for me, I'll make sure that I give you all the information you're looking for. Now, coming back to what we're going to be talking about here. So we have the Africa Climate Summit. That's actually happening tomorrow. In fact, there's already been some pre-events been happening over the weekend. Yeah. And tomorrow they're going to start full-fledged. But before we dive into what can we expect from that, let me just share, for example, first of all, a welcome video about the summit. And I'm sure you're going to be liking it. Yeah. So let me share my screen, and I want you to listen to that. 1 minute. And obviously, that's a welcome from the president. So if you haven't seen it.
I welcome you to Nairobi, Kenya's capital, with the distinction of being the only city with a national wildlife park on one side and a closed canopy forest on the other. Kenya is a country of innovative, hardworking, hospitable, and ecologically conscious people. It is also a magical place full of delightful attractions with breathtaking diversity of natural flora and fauna, stunning landscapes, vibrant cultures, and an impressive enterprise work and service ethic. Between 4th and the 6th of September this year, Nairobi will host the Africa Climate Summit, where our continent will gather to define and refine its fresh and distinctive position regarding how humanity should engage in effective action in order to save this planet from a climate catastrophe and at the same time lift hundreds of millions out of poverty. As the chairperson of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, and as President of Kenya, it is an immense privilege to have the honor of inviting fellow heads of state and government from every African nation and throughout the world, heads of national delegations, corporate leaders, and captains of industry, representations of development institutions, and every distinguished participant to Nairobi for the Africa Climate Summit.
Okay, that's what you've been saying. So that's actually the welcome from the president. That's, I'm sure, and I'm hoping that you've had the chance to look at that. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it just yet, I would strongly encourage you to do so, right? So now we're going to be looking at the Africa Climate Summit. And you know, that's a very, very busy summit that's going to happen. And in fact, let me just share a couple of pictures with you so you could see what's happening already. Let me have a look at that, yeah? That, for example, as you could see, the people queuing up, you know, just to get into the summit. So I have to say, so this is a free event. So that's also can explain why there's a large affluence of people wanting to attend. But nevertheless, it's good to be able to see that. Look at that, right? And this picture was actually taken by my colleague Brian, who was on the ground, who was actually queuing up just to get his accreditation. Because you know what? If you're not going to get this accreditation, you're not going to be able to go inside, yeah? So you definitely want to do it. So that's a picture of Brian, beautiful picture of him, you know, after he's done his job. Now he can go back home and get ready for tomorrow. In fact, you're going to have 2 people from Renewables in Africa attending. Unfortunately, this time round, I'm not going to be able to attend, you know, for reasons, let's say family reasons, but Renewables in Africa are going to be very well represented. So please, my key pledge for you is to make sure that you engage with my colleague, both Oluwajuwere and also Brian as well, colleague. Yeah, make sure that you do actually engage. And what I'm going to be doing, like many of you who are not able to attend, is to make sure to participate virtually, right? Because it's going to be a live stream on the summit, and I'm hoping that you're going to be part of that, right? So let's now come back to the oh, 1 second. I think one second. Okay, that's fine. So as I was talking to you live, I have my colleague from Kenya. Yeah. So who is actually telling me that he's with one of the minister in Africa, and most likely they want to speak to me. But I'm just going to tell them that I'm going to talk to them later. Yeah. So give me a few minutes. As you can see, it's a few minutes. Okay, so this is actually what's happening when you're actually broadcasting live. So you have things happening. So my colleague was saying one of the minister is with him, and they wanted to discuss with me. So okay, I'm gonna have to say, Mr. Minister, if you don't mind, I'm talking to Renewables in Africa, our followers here, readers, and also all our community. So I definitely would like to finish what I'm doing first of all before we can jump and talk to the minister. So hopefully he would understand. But let me not go back to the summit. I was saying this is the very first climate summit happening in Africa about Africa, right? And Kenya is having the privilege to host this. And Kenya definitely is a good nation to be able to do that, because they've done tremendous steps, right, going forward to address these issues. And there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be important and that will be discussed as well during this summit. And instead of just going to all of it, because if I'm doing that, we're just going to spend the whole day, the whole afternoon here. What I decided I was going to do, I was going to actually look at the three main issues for me that I believe are sticking out, and I absolutely want to see something happening there. And those are three issues where Renewables in Africa, we are active into it. Yeah, we're active in those areas. We are doing something about it. And I'm hoping that as well some of you would also be doing the same thing. So now, what is the first issue that I want to talk to you about, right? What's going to be the first thing I believe that we need to be talking about? So the first one going to be climate finance for adaptation, also loss and damage. Yeah, this is something, this area of huge importance. And let me also show maybe picture that shows what I'm talking about, that because as you know, there has been lots of promises as to what are we going to do regarding that. Yeah, there has been lots of promises, that we're going to help people in the continent to make sure that, they have enough investment, enough money to adapt to the climate change, to the consequences, and make sure that they can obviously up the pace of the solution that they're deploying. So, and as you can see, what this graph is showing us here is that according to calculation, right? So annually, so the requirement is actually to have 52, let's say $53 billion, right? So that's what has been calculated. And out of the $53 billion, right, what is actually being provided, to countries, to deal with adaptation, also loss of damage, is only 11.4 billion. As you can see, there's a 41 billion that is still missing. Yeah, definitely. I believe the summit will be looking at that, because there's clearly a gap between the promises and also the delivery. So how are we going to be doing that? Because if we're saying that we want the continent to up the pace, to adapt to the solution and also to follow the trend, yeah. So definitely there needs to be some support there, and not just from just the external partners, but also the local partners, to understand that okay, there's a gap that needs to be plugged there, because most of that money, those $11.4 billion, actually coming from public sector, right? Where is the private sector? Private sector is pretty much inexistent, so it needs to be really plugged, this gap, and it's very important to do so, right? So that's one thing clearly I believe is going to happen in the summit when we're talking about that, and talking about also this gap. I just want to highlight the fact that, so for some data as well that have been gathered, so if we're looking at the debt of Africa in 2010, that was about 19% of the global debt, right? Now, flash forward, 10 years down the line, or maybe more precisely 12 years down the line. So that debt has jumped from 19% to 29%, in 2022. Yeah, that's what we're having. So what's happened? Obviously, COVID has gone through that, and also the inflation has gone towards it. So the idea say that the summit definitely will want to be looking at that. And I know particular president like President Ruto and like many other presidents in Africa and head of state definitely want to have a new global finance system in place, because what is actually being applied right now, it's quite unfair, I would say, to lots of African countries, right? Because if you say that, and that's also one of the criticism people are sometimes saying, say that, okay, if you want the continent to follow the green agenda, which is something I strongly support, so what are actually the proper support and help that you can put forward, right? So people can tap into it. And that support should not be a debt, because if you're giving it as a debt, you're not really helping that much, right? But what kind of new mechanism? But it can't be also only grant, right? That doesn't make sense. But what one thing that the continent has resources. The continent has minerals. We're going to come back to minerals later anyway. So how can we use that to balance the fact that, hey, you from your side, you need this from us, but also we need this from you. How can we trade it and find it an equal partnership where you get what you want and I get what I want, right? That's kind of the conversation that needs to happen as well right now. And also, I guess as well, the summit will be talking about the commitment that was made by Wealthy Nation, because we shouldn't be shying away from that, because Wealthy Nation, they've made commitment that they were gonna provide $100 billion on a yearly basis up until 2030, to make sure that countries that are lagging behind, countries that are not as fortunate as they are, to step up to the plate, and also being able to roll out the energy transition in the country, and make sure that as a whole world we're moving towards the right direction. Yeah, so they were going to do that, but guess what? So what has been seen up to now is that they've not been able to match their commitment, right? So the $100 billion a year is still not fully met. Yeah, so I think they're getting close to that. They're making progress, but hey, and guess what? Also, since then, that $100 billion has expanded. I think what is needed is probably more than that. And they also talked about the amount for adaptation. I think it was about 30 billion a year. I think, if I remember that correctly as well. The idea was also to double that, because there was a clear recognition that because Africa as a continent, it's actually a big recipient of the consequences of climate changes. They're bearing the brunt, right? The continent only contribute to, let's say, lower percentage of CO2 that is actually emitted into the atmosphere. But like I say, unfortunately, so the consequences are not a representative of the contribution in terms of CO2. And the question was, how can we then help people to adapt to what is already there, right? So double the amount of adaptation, and also, create a fund for loss and damage. And that was one of the main achievement of COP27, right? It was a breakthrough. Now that breakthrough needs to be properly backed up and also implemented, so that people can see it wasn't just nice words people were putting in a declaration. Yeah, and I'm hoping that when we have the Nairobi agreement, I think I forgot how it's called, framework agreement, something like that. Nairobi framework declaration, because I think at the end of this summit there's going to be a Nairobi framework declaration, and then hopefully we'll have countries that actually backing that. So clearly, climate finance for adaptation, loss and damage is a key issue. So what is that as Renewables in Africa we're doing for that? So if you've been following us very closely, you've seen that we have increasingly stepped up to the plate and promoting mechanism like the IREC, which is the International Renewable Energy Certificate, that allow people, producer of renewables energy and owner of those power plant, to join this market and trade those certificates in exchange for some money, because there's people out there that are keen to get those certificates to demonstrate that they're contributing to the combat to climate change, that will want to purchase those certificates. So in Africa, we have about something like 13, 14 countries that have signed up to the IREC. We need much more than that. But also much widely, we also have carbon credit, So we clearly also working now with a couple of organizations, make sure that we're pushing that forward. And this is something that we're tapping into to make sure that in the continent, we're taking advantage on the climate financing. Because in some market, Europe definitely, but some other market, like for example, Australia, Singapore, or Japan, it's growing significantly. So we want to see the same happening as well in the continent. Yeah, that's fine. So that actually was the first issue I believe we can expect to hear a lot about during the summit. But there is another issue, a second issue, because I said there's three that I want to talk to you about, right? And the second one that I want to talk to you about, it's something you've heard in and out. It's energy access and also energy transition. For me, as far as concerned, we can't separate the two. The two goes hand in hand. And talking about that, let me share with you a second slide that could be of interest. Because what we see, I don't know whether it's very much visible. If not, I would apologize. But what we see here, it's on the map, yeah? So we have now 50% of the population that has access to electricity. And the first nice thing I want to say about it, because I know sometimes we tend to be a little bit too negative at times, is that there's progress being made. Yeah, progress has been made. It's a very slow progress, but it's been made. You can see that from the curve, right? You can see, for example, that, we look at 2010 all the way to here. We want to 30% to 50%. That's fine. This is why, as a vision, when we say, for example, that by 2040, we believe that we can achieve full electrification, it's doable, it's possible, because there's only 50%. Okay, yeah, 50% gap that needs to be closed. And it's doable because with all the technology that we have right now, with the knowledge that we have right now, we could do it. The question is, do we have the will to be able to discuss that? Yeah. And that's one of the questions I believe would be discussed and at the summit, right? And the key answer here is I'm expecting to hear about achieving the right balance between energy access and also low carbon energy system, because the two are not competing against each other, but they can be working hand in hand, right? So what we're looking at here, we want to be definitely scaling up distributed system, right? But also centralized system. We want to scale up both. So yes, we will need mini grid for area where the grid cannot get access to, or maybe the grid is not financially viable, but also we need utility scale to be expanded, yeah, to make sure that you can reach out as well to the mass market at a faster pace. Yeah, we definitely want to be looking at that. How can we unlock the potential, in both the mini grid and utility scale? Because at the moment, I tell you, with the job that we do in renewables in Africa, we definitely get involved with both sectors. And for me, it's way too slow, way too slow, right? So there's lots of bureaucracy, and also even when we have programs that have actually are put in place by multilateral organizations, some partners from the continent, it's most of the time, that's my personal view, not really adapted to what we see what we see on the ground, So we need to make a lot more progress there, yeah. So that is for me very much important. And yes, you will need both, like I said, distributed or centralized system. And also, you have as well new technology that we're talking about, for example, hydrogen project, being pushed by Namibia and other countries. Namibia, for example, launching a big project. They launched it in May 2023. We need that, yeah? So, yeah, but to make it happen, definitely financing would be of a great importance, yeah? So you would need, obviously finance, you need technical support, capacity building. You will need a lot of that, because if you need to deploy those projects, do you have the investor working with you? Do you have the people working with you that are properly trained? So do you know how you're going to handle things, environmentally, socially speaking? Yeah. And as an initiative, what we're doing, we definitely also active in here, Renewables in Africa, because specifically, if we're looking at our awareness, our awareness program, it's all about pushing companies that have responses, solutions to those challenges, making sure that these companies come on the forefront, so that you, who are part of the target market, get to know who they are and engage with them. So this is what we're actually doing with this company. So that's what I'm saying. This company, if you happen to be one of this company, you have a solution, you have a service, right? So you know that you can contribute, to both helping energy access and driving energy transition in the continent, definitely do engage. Our job is to make sure that we put you in front of this guy, in front of your target audience, so that you can connect with them, so that you can get the lead that you need and you can make the sales that you want. Yeah, this is how we're doing it. And capacity building, yes, we're doing those two trainings. Yeah, do engage with us. Do engage with us, because we clearly will want to make that happen. We've worked recently with people like AGF, African Energy Guarantee Facility, so we can work with some other people to make sure that we can help you drive and roll out program that you have. Yeah, that's fine. So the last point I want to talk to you about, which is my third point, because I think it was going to be 3 key issues I believe that will be discussed at the summit. So the last point I want to touch on upon is the and I'm sure you won't be surprised hearing that from me. It's actually critical minerals and also other renewable energy sources, because the continent is clearly very blessed. Yeah, the continent is very blessed by having so much resources. When you're looking at the country around the world, right, and looking at the transition to low carbon economy, so they would increasingly need amount of critical minerals, like for example lithium, graphite, cobalt. We need to make a lot more electric vehicle batteries, wind turbines, solar panels, right? I've talked about it a lot of time. And the continent of Africa hold about 30% of the world mineral resources. And this alongside clean energy resources that are abundant. So it can serve as a foundation for clean energy industry and also commodities. But what is usually needed is a strong governance. It's essential to ensure that the African people will clearly derive benefit from these resources, because that's what we see not matching here. And I was actually showing with you this slide that you could see, which is showcasing very quickly some of the material that are needed. For example, you can see for rechargeable battery, you have lithium, you have cobalt, you have nickel, you have a lot of it. Yeah, you can see as well for electric vehicle motors, what we need. For wind turbine, what we need, for example, with zinc, we need that as well. So there's a lot of material, and the good thing about it, a lot of them you'll find it in the continent. Yeah, so don't just hear me speaking about that, but you can just also look it up for yourself. So let me see if I have a better picture of that. But I believe you can see, for example, that what we're seeing here, Gabon. Look, Gabon has been in the news a lot recently, and I was particularly interested by that for simple reason that my sister, my dear sister, lives over there. So it's the world's largest bauxite reserve. Sorry, that's in Guinea. Yeah, Gabon, larger producer of manganese. You have, for example, DRC with 70% of cobalt. Everybody knows about that. You have Namibia. You have the uranium. That's important. South Africa, Eritrea, Zambia, Mozambique. All these countries have enormous, huge reserve of minerals. And critical minerals and the way we handle it is going to be a big topic. It's going to be a big topic at this summit, and it's going to be debated about that. And I suspect as well in the Nairobi Framework Declaration, in the end, Declaration Framework in the end, there will be a word about it. What I can clearly tell you is, as renewables in Africa, so we also very interested by this topic. And I know I've mentioned already in one of our previous summits, but clearly, when we're having a climate summit like the one we're having here, so we're never going to miss the opportunity to make sure that our voice are heard, our contribution is felt. And we are actually proud to say that. So we are also holding, in collaboration with two to three organizations, a side event that's going to be looking at the issue of critical minerals, right? So it's going to be happening tomorrow on Monday, so have to. So it's going to talk about the dialogue, the focus on green minerals manufacturing. How can we look at adaptation and resilience to climate risk, and how can we really develop, push a little bit forward that governance that is missing, to really to really to really tackle this issue the way it should be, because it's very, very, very important. Yeah, that's what we will be doing. So yeah, I was just showing the I believe I said that already. Yeah, I was showing the wrong slide here. So that is the kind of issue that we expecting that will be discussed at the summit. Just to summarize. So we're going to be talking about, we're expecting there's going to be a lot of discussion about climate finance, for adaptation and loss and damage. Very much important. I've explained why. Looking at the gap that is between what is promised and what has been delivered. There's a missing gap here, and also the debt situation of Africa. So how can we make sure that we tackle that, have a new system that look into that? And then secondly, we're going to be talking about energy access, energy transition, because the electrification of the continent is only 50% at the moment. How can we get it to 100% by 2040, which is the vision that we have? We believe is doable. Solutions are needed, mini grid, but also centralized system. The two together should go hand in hand, but you need finance for that. You need to build capacity as well for that. You need investment, obviously, yeah? And thirdly, we're going to be looking at critical minerals, because the continent has 30% of the world reserve, right? And those minerals will be critical, central, pivotal, to move into energy transition. Africa really can tap into this. Hey, listen, guys, we definitely want to work hand in hand with you, but because we hold those minerals, let's make sure that we can also develop green manufacturing in here, in the continent, so that you don't just come and take those reserves and just move away. So how can we benefit from that? Yeah, and make sure we develop as our society. These are the kind of issues that I'm expecting will be discussed. So if you have any question, I'll be more than happy to pick that up very quickly. Oh, I can see there's a lot of questions. Okay, guys. So I'll come back. I'll come back to that. But just want to say that, please, again, make sure. So if you're attending the event, make sure that you engage with my colleagues. This is my two colleagues that will be there. So I can't be there in person, but Renewables in Africa will be present. So you have a Chwere, which is a regional director for renewables in Africa in East Africa. He's going to be there with Mr. Brian Collick, and I showed the picture of Brian before. Make sure that you engage with them, and you will drive the conversation forward. So let me just pick up some of the questions that I received, because I can see there was a lot of reaction. So thank you very much, Gab, for that. I very much appreciate it, because I love when there's some reaction there. So let me just show what we hear. So yeah, we have Ahmed. Ahmed is writing from Egypt. Hello from Egypt. Hey, Ahmed, brilliant to seeing you. I appreciate that as always. Great. So we have Saleh. So Saleh said, Malindi, Kenya. Hey, Saleh. So are you attending ACS? If you're attending ACS, make sure you reach out to Oluch, right? Make sure you reach out to Brian. And even if you're not attending, if you're just attending virtually, just like me, it's gonna be live stream. If you're attending just virtually, reach out to them on LinkedIn, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I'll make sure that I connect you with them if you can see them in person. So I have as well, engineer Emmanuel Abba from Nigeria. Hey, Emmanuel, how are you? So hopefully you've learned something here and you have some contributions. I just want to find out from you, what are your expectations from the summit? What is that you like to see? Let us know. And then a big to have. Oh, a very good friend of mine. So Mariama Camara, who says that. Also to mention that, okay, she wanted to say, to mention that the finances should be focused on local company instead of internationally owned. Very good point. It's all about how do you support local talent, the local supply chain, the local champion. Absolutely. And that is very key, because most of the time, and I can't give the detail, but we've been victim of that. Yeah. So whereby we participated in some, let's say, tenders or calls, but the rules are so tight, are so strict that, it's difficult when you're not an international recognized company yet, or a big company yet, to tap into that. So yes, sometimes there is this feeling that, those projects only will go to certain type of people. And that's what Mariama is saying. And Mariama, I know she's doing a great job in Sierra Leone as well, right? So a company being Sierra Leone in the UK, fantastic job she's doing on the ground. She knows what she's talking about, and I can only agree with that. Yeah, thank you very much for mentioning that, Mariama. So, okay, Mariama say exactly, great. I have as well, as a lot of, I can see the topic today really sort of was driving a lot of reaction. So I have an engineer, Joseph Kruma from Ghana. Hey, Joseph, great to connect. I like it. Thanks for being around. So I also have Sunil. Let me just look at the name properly. Oh, so yeah, Batnaka. Yeah, I said that Africa. Oh, sorry, I thought it was sure. Africa is very rich in critical minerals, but all go outside Africa for refining. Africa is not earning much as prices per the finished material and not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't want to dive into the politics, and don't please accuse me of doing that. But part of the reason you have this tension between, for example, the current leadership in Niger and let's say some let's say foreign nations, Western foreign nation, is the fact that if you're in Niger, you're really resentful because you're saying that, okay, I've been giving 18-20% of my of the uranium that, for example, France gets come from us, and clearly France benefiting from that, and there's some huge revenue that derived from it, and I'm not being able to take advantage of that. I will be frustrated here. I'm not saying that the situation is it. I'm not supporting anybody here, by the way, but I'm just saying that these are the kind of questions that are frustrating people on the ground, and it leads to tension that we see right now. That's exactly what we're saying here. People having critical minerals, everything goes outside for refining. Nothing is done inside. For example, some people say that there could have been maybe a possibility, I don't know, maybe to build a nuclear power station in Niger all the time. Why not? Yeah. So I'm not necessarily pushing for nuclear, but I'm just saying that this is a kind of conversation I believe should be happening at the summit. If we want to make sure that we have an honest, transparent dialogue and avoid some issues that's coming later on because people on the ground are just so fed up with what they are saying. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So how can we, that's what I say, local manufacturing. That's the whole idea about the side event that we're organizing, because we identify that this is clearly a strength that Africa has, with the minerals. Africa is blessed with that. Now, how can you use it, to sort of reorganize the conversation? Say, guys, something needs to happen here. We also need to make sure that we sort of transform those material here so that we can benefit, so we can develop our skills. We can come tomorrow with patents, with IPs, that's going to really get our company to benefit from the value added of those products. Yeah, not just the raw material. Absolutely. So I think we can have so much. Yeah, I think Sonia was just sharing the. Yeah, okay. Sonia was sharing the his email address, but it looks like it's been blocked by the system. No problem. So I believe I've seen all the messages. If it's correct, yeah, I think that's that. I think I've gone through all of that. So essentially, guys, all of you. So thank you very much for your messages. So that was very much appreciated. Yeah. So I can see there has been a very good contribution from people for this summit. Like I said, don't forget to engage with both Oluj, but also Brian, to make sure that you can talk to them if you have any. Oh, by the way, like say IREC, like say if you have operational power, solar power plants, wind power plants, especially if they're sizable, you may want to tap into IREC if you're not doing that yet. So reach out to them. So if you have a company, product services, you like to be more visible to your target audience, talk about the product service that you have, we are the perfect people you want to talk to. Yeah, come to us. So we have a defined, comprehensive, 360-degree approach to help you to do that, to reach out to your target audience and to get the leads and the sales that you need. Is important. It's part of the solutions. You being more visible to deploy your solution. Absolutely. And if you say, for example, critical minerals is such an important topic, I like to be part of it. If you happen to be at ACS, just go to our side event. Just reach out to the team, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to talk to you. I think that's all I had to say for today. So obviously we stay longer than planned. First of all, like I said, I started later than usual because I was still getting ready. Because sometimes it takes me a lot more time than I anticipate to to be ready to talk to you guys. But all in all, so As usual, a pleasure to talk to you, and also delighted to see that there has been so many engagement, so much engagement from you, from your side. So we've learned a lot. And then all I wish you, it's a fantastic Sunday. And now it's time for me to go back to my colleagues. So hopefully still with the minister. So I can't tell you which minister, because obviously preserve the privacy here. But hopefully still with the minister. And hope I can still talk to the minister. But guys, pleasure to be with you as always. So I see you tomorrow for One Day One Concept Idea. And like I say, anything, guys, reach out to us. And the worst thing I can tell you is, hey, I can't help you, but maybe this is somebody that could be of interest for you. Okay, take care, guys. May the sun be with you. Bye-bye. And connect with Brian and the Roach, right? That's your job.